Kushida already foreshadowed that Ayanokoji will go from this to this by the end of Classroom of the Elite. Now I'm sure I'm not the only one who's noticed that there are a lot of series these days that are very popular because they have an overpowered character. It's something that a lot of us like to see, and they're just really nice because then you get to imagine a story where the main character doesn't have to start off weak and they can just be strong and see what that's like, because we all like our main characters at the end of the story when they're strong, but then the story ends. So get something nice where the main character starts strong is great. But the problem with these series is that beyond that concept, there's not much story to be had. There's a lot more story when the character goes from being weak to being very strong, so I guess that makes for better storytelling. But I think that, recently stories have gotten better and they now have kind of stories. They are stories that are really good where the main character starts off strong, but, over the course of the story, we have some compelling stuff that goes on that keeps us invested. And two examples that are popular of this is One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100. And they are both stories where the main character starts off pretty powerful at the beginning. And despite starting off as pretty popular, you can tell that they have good stories because just look at this. Look at all the videos people have done showing about these characters and all the deeper meanings behind the story beside them just being strong. So yes, it is possible that we can have a story where the main character starts OP, and that's somewhat of a new genre recently, because there's many, and I think another recent favorite of mine is Mashle, although this is not an anime yet. I think it has been announced that there will be an anime, but Mashle is another great one. And finally, we get to the main topic of this video, Classroom of the Elite, because, the action here is different from the action in Mashle, Mob Psycho 100 or One Punch Man, because the action here is a lot of the situations and challenges and the mental gymnastics that they have to do. But it is very similar to the other ones in which you have an overpowered main character in an action-filled series, and it's great because it has good story as well. All well projected to have good story as well. Now the closest example I can think of when it comes to comparing main characters in some of these stories is Ayanokoji from Classroom of the Elite and Saitama from One Punch Man, because One Punch Man's pretty popular as well. And while both of them are super capable, the real story that we like, apart from the action scenes of Saitama just not putting in effort, but it's the story behind them, because they kind of seem like complete and capable humans on the surface or in theory, but they both lack something fundamental. But when you look at them, you just never know that, right? Saitama seems like an extremely just regular guy, a bit out there, but regular guy because he often talks about going shopping and playing video games with King. And then we just see him have these scenes where he's just walking home like a regular guy. But on the other hand, he also lacks awareness. And he just lacks, the ability to just be around, because it seems he's never around. He seems like he doesn't really understand people around him. Even just the fighting, like we went on a whole martial arts tournament just for him to figure out what that was all about without giving away too much spoilers. I don't think that's a spoiler, is it? Nah, it doesn't give away too much. On the other hand, Ayanokoji seems like the classic I'm just gonna sit in my corner and do my thing kind of guy who doesn't want to stand out, doesn't want to really, doesn't really have friends, sit at the back of the classroom next to the window kind of main character vibes. But on the other hand, he's sorely lacking in empathy, right? And he doesn't know much about understanding social conventions. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have social skills, he does have them, but he kind of just practices them in a matter-of-fact kind of way. He doesn't feel like he should say sorry, he just says sorry because that's the kind of thing that makes people happy, right? That's the kind of thing. He doesn't really care about any of this, and he doesn't really understand a lot of these things. He just kind of does it because, yep, that's what I'm supposed to do if I just want to get by. So yeah, while he does have the social skills, he can't fully utilize them sometimes because he can't empathize with regular emotion. Which is why in episode 1, we see him go like, I am Ayanokoji. And he flops the rest of it when it comes to telling people about his interests and, a bit more about himself. So yeah, he has the skills, just can't use them because he doesn't really empathize that well. So while we have all these cool scenes and seeing how broken the main characters are in terms of their abilities and how they can just go through everybody with relatively little difficulty, at the same time we also see how broken they are as people. So they are broken in both senses of the word. And we hope that one day they will manage to navigate this emptiness that they have, because that is the real story that's being told. And that's what keeps us invested beyond the initial plotline. Now, over the journey of Classroom of the Elite, we probably hope to find and see Ayanokoji in the end kind of find meaning in, his existence and motivation that helps him fit in. Because right now, he just wants to put little effort into everything and just coast through everything and kind of just make it out at the end. But we want to see him, strive for stuff like other characters do, maybe want to have friends, maybe build bonds, and just have him fit in as a regular person. He doesn't need to be friends with everyone, but he needs to empathize and relate the way everyone is in the series. And obviously we imagine that this will kind of be gained as he faces challenges in his journey to Class A, because while he is really just broken in terms of how smart and how good he is, that he could get 50% on a test consistently, aiming for 50 and getting exactly 50, he may not be, just the smartest person in the world, right? He just may be smart to a certain extent, and then it will be relatively difficult. So we're hoping that, the difficulties that he faces may make him a bit less apathetic and obviously less mentally isolated and just hidden that he makes himself be, which we've already seen. Because as much as he keeps saying that don't give credit to me, people often around him in his small circle credit him, and it's growing larger because now we're in season 2 and we have Ryuen who's on his tail, almost kind of figuring him out. I'm not sure where that will go, but it's clear that there is going to be something there in terms of him growing as a person while he overcomes the challenges to getting to Class A, because maybe he by himself does not have the ability to get to Class A. And all this comes from a very simple motivation of hitting the subscribe button. Of wanting his freedom and not letting it be threatened by this mysterious doctor. So yeah, I fully expect that there will be a time that will come in which he will be uncertain and his raw intellect can't go through a certain roof, and then he will start to have to hope. And in the end, we expect him to fit in with everyone else, maybe gain a few friends along the way that he feels are maybe a bit more genuine. Doesn't need to be friends with everyone, but he has to have some people who he feels are his contemporaries. And that's why by the end of it, he will go from this gloomy character to this smiling boy right here. Look at him.